Good evening, this is Rodney with the Triton Wave market timing update for Monday, August 13th, 2012. Let's jump in here and look at the S&P futures. They were up slightly. They were up 200 on the day, 2 points on the day. But we have this congestion that's been going on for 6 trading days now. Again, the upper boundary of the horizontal trend line going back to March, and the inside trend line going all the way back to October of 2011. So yes, it looks like there might be a little more, 5, 6, 7 points on the upside. But if you look at the 21-minute, now normally the waves would just like cave over in this nice rhythmic move up and down. The timing on this should have been down right around the 8th of August, but it stayed sideways as T1 through T4 are trickling down and T5 is staying above zero. However, the volume on all these moves is around 500 million shares on the New York Stock Exchange. If we bring down the vol spread, it came up, it was down under zero until there was a little bit of short covering at the end of the day on Friday. It came up to the same level that it was Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. So there's no change on that. As far as the tick goes, we did see a couple. There was a minus 1,000 reading and a plus 1,000 reading, and that's basically it for 3 trading days. So the activity's picking up a little bit more, but not that much. So the question remains, where do we go from here? Do we plow higher using this 21-minute, I'm sorry, the 8-period moving average that we actually did along here from December all the way to March? This is slow trickle to the upside. And actually, to me, it looks like it could do that if you just base it off of the waves. But again, in order to get through this top of a lot of overhead supply at 1410 on going back to May and the upward trend line, there would have to be much more volume that's involved now. So there'd have to be like huge buy programs, and you'd have to have good news from Europe, good news from the Fed, good news from China. I don't see that happening. So I like the short side here. If you're going to take the long side, I would put stops on the downside at about 1391, and if you were short, I'd put a stop at 1412, because if it takes out 1412 on high volume day, we're off to the races again, and we have to take another hard look at what the waves are doing. There was mostly no change on the stocks, but let's run through a few of them. Goldman Sachs. No change on Goldman Sachs. It's trickling. T1 through T3 is completely below zero. T4 is approaching zero, and T5 is getting smaller and smaller. Again, the daily actually doesn't look too bad, but in a market turnaround to the downside, these could all move down. This could move down to 100 pretty easily, and that's only 3 points away. Baidu managed to break through the congestion on the daily, and the T1 is very peaking. You notice all these peaks that have happened in the past. whenever T1 peaked, it came down. It retraced a little bit. So let's look at a former peak here. Even a peak here at 142 came back to 130. So if you're looking very, very long term, if it comes back down to the congestion it just broke out to, say to the 21, so if it drops 8 or 10 points, we could take a look at that for a buy, but I wouldn't buy it here at this lofty level, especially with the S&P butting up against key resistance. The 21 minute looks a little bit weak. T1, T2, T3 is below zero, half a T4, and T5 is trending down. Netflix seems to be doing its own thing. It looked like a washout on August 3rd. But also, if you look at on the right-hand side, that washout on the daily on the same August 3rd, T4 crossed above zero, and it's been slowly trickling up to 62. So I didn't, like I say, it's doing its own thing. I don't think it's strong in the big picture, with T5 firmly below zero on the daily, but it could have a pop up to 62, 65. We'll have to take a look at that because that might be a good short. I wouldn't play this to the upside though. I just don't like playing Netflix right now. Apple was up most of the day on Friday. I'm sorry, it was down most of the day on Friday, and then it had this kick up right toward the end. You can see that from, it was looking down about 1.5 points, 2 points, and then all of a sudden it finished up 97 cents. So it actually moved up two and a half points in the last 2 hours. Some of that short covering. I still like Apple to the downside. T3 has gone below zero now. T4 is just hovering right above zero. MasterCard, in spite of the big gains on Wednesday, and a little bit on Thursday, and a little bit on Friday, it's still coming up to key resistance on the daily, on all the confluence of the exponential moving averages. T1, 2, 3, and 4 below zero. T5 keeps creeping towards zero. That number keeps decreasing. 280, 221. Right in here I'm looking at 177, 133. So in a couple days that could be all resolved, and that might start moving down because I don't see anything that would indicate a breakout to the upside here. We're right at resistance at the 377. T1 is barely above zero. No indication of a pop or decline as yet. GLD, the gold ETF. T1, T2 on the daily is above zero. T3 is slowly, marginally making its way up above zero. And I made a note in past videos that even though the candles on the waves are moving up, that it was moving into congestion, backing and filling twice here, from 158 back to 153, 157, 153. As the waves are moving above zero, the cash price is doing nothing. And also on the 21 minute, it's just about going sideways. It had a little pop on Friday, 158, 156.80 to 157.60. Nice little pop maybe if you're playing the 144 tick chart. But it's not, I'm not convinced. This, as I said in either Thursday or Friday, if this moves above the 144 exponential moving average and closes above it, and we see T1 on the 21 moving above zero, that would constitute a buy for me. Right now, I would leave it alone. Also, I'd take another look at this if either T, if T3 were firmly above 0 on all the colors, not just the green. Okay, let's take a look at Google. Is down 35 cents, but it had a range of all the way down to 636 to 642, and it closed at 642. So it closed near the high of the day, but it was down. It was down early in the day on the 21. It gapped down. It was down about 6 points, and then it made its way up during the short covering of the S&P futures. So for the first time, as I've noted in the past, the T5 is still below 0. It happened on Thursday, right around closing time, and it actually started to creep below 0. Let me see if it actually happened before the close. It actually happened at 2:27 Central Time. So if you're playing T5 to the downside, with the note that T1, T2, T3, T4 were already down below 0, when T5 went below 0, actually this was playable, and it was good for a 6-point move right at the opening. I still think Google has a chance of coming back to 600 in any kind of a market play to the downside. Even though the waves are up and healthy on the left-hand side on the daily, the 21 minute is getting a little weak and a little bit sloppy. I wanted to bring up on the screen the chart that I use for the Aussie yen cross, because I like to watch this. This is a 15-minute chart here, and it closed right in here on Friday, and it opened at 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon, 3 hours before the S&Ps opened, and it popped down. It's moving back up again. If we look at this on a daily and scrunch this up a little bit, it made a move from 88.70 down to 74.30 from March to May, and from May to the present time. It's a 50% retracement. It's kind of like a little bit of a shoulder from the top here, and let me just really scrunch this up here. It's a line of tops of important decisions that went on. One in August 2011, October 30th, 2011, and when it finally moved through that resistance in February, it popped up almost to the recent highs. And then those highs didn't hold. It moved all the way back down to the bottom. This is now a 50% retracement. So at the beginning of Sunday, it looks like it's, let's get the daily. The daily looks like looks like it wants to roll over for right now. If this starts rolling over overnight, depending on what's going on with the Hang Seng and with Japanese market, we could see a nice rollover. In that case, if this starts rolling back to these lows back in the beginning of August, we're going to see all asset classes moving to the downside. That includes gold, S&P, bonds will probably be the only thing that's moving up. So if we move to some live charts now, it's now 6:30 in the evening Central Time on Sunday. Let's move to some live charts here. The S&P is down 175. You can see how it started. It started down about 200, moved back up again. The 8's crossing the 21. The 8's about to cross the 21. Look if this is gonna go down tonight, look for the cross to happen between the 8 and the 21, and for them both to cross the 55. Both the 8 and the 21 to cross, this is not the cash prices, these are the exponential moving averages. For the 8 to cross the 21, and for both of them to cross the 55, and then for both of them to cross or hit the 377. And we should have a nice move to the downside. All right, that's the wrap up for this evening. Good trading on Monday, and I hope your trades work out, and I'll see you at the next update.